Hi and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can reuse your Mailgun sending code just by putting it inside a library file and calling it from your other code. So this is just a refactoring of this code here to make it a bit nicer, but nonetheless, I thought I should show you how I do this normally in my other projects. It's really straightforward. What we'll do is in your project, you'll want to have a new Python package that you're going to call libs. And normally you'll have a package like this one in most projects as long as you're using other external services. In this case, we're using the external service Mailgun. Mailgun gives us an API that we can interact with, but there is a small issue of sorts that here we're not really, in terms of our code, we're not really interacting with Mailgun directly. When you read this code, it's a bit too raw. You know, you can see that what you're doing is you're making a request to some API and then something's happening and so forth. And unless you know exactly what this API is doing, it may not be immediately obvious that this is sending an email. Of course, you now know what this code does, and if you see a post request to something called Mailgun, you know what Mailgun is, and you see a from, to, subject, and text, you can probably guess this is sending an email. But what I mean to say is that this code here isn't what you'd read as send an email. You'd read this as make a post request to some place. So it's always a good idea to put this code inside a function and call that function send an email. And that way, when you read in some other part of your program send email, you'll know that that function is sending an email and you won't have to worry about whether it's sending a post request or a get request to some place. So with that said, we'll go into our libs folder and create a new Python file. I'm going to call this mailgun.py because this is going to contain our Mailgun library. This is going to be a Python file that is going to encapsulate that sending of a request, and it's going to encapsulate it and call it in a bit nicer way. So we're going to import requests in here. Then we're going to have our class Mailgun, and this class Mailgun is going to have a few properties. An API URL, API key, and also a from name and from email. So we're going to paste those in here. Now the assumption for this class is that these are all static properties. They're never going to change. And so we can just set and hardcode the values in here. This may not be true for your project. Maybe you'll want to be sending emails from different people. And in that case, you'll want to restructure this slightly. And I'll show you how in just a moment. Then we're going to have a class method in here that I'm going to call send email. And this is going to get three arguments: the emails that you want to send an email to, the subject, and the content. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy this requests.post, and instead of Mailgun API URL, we're going to do cls.mailgun API URL. Instead of Mailgun API key, we're going to do cls.mailgun API key. And instead of two emails as a constant, we're going to do two emails. The parameter subject is also going to be the parameter, and content is also going to be the parameter. And of course, from name and from email should also be inside CLS. That's it. We're going to remove this comment here. Let's assume we already know what that does. And really, that's everything you need. You put in here your API URL and your API key, and you can hardcode your name and your email that you're sending from. If you don't want to hardcode them because your application requires sending from different places, just add them as arguments here. From name, from email. And if you want, you could even make these constant variables by default. Make sure to use the right thing here. But because my applications normally have a single email that it's sending the emails, I normally don't do this, but you could do it and then just replace them here as well. And that would be a way of making this a bit more flexible. That's it. You have your Mailgun class that can send emails. Now, when you want to send an email anywhere within your application, all you have to do is say mailgun dot send email and give it the email subject and content. So we're going to create a new file inside the project, and I'm going to call that using mailgun lib.py. And this is going to do just from libs mailgun, import mailgun class, and then we're going to do mailgun send email, and this is going to go to test@gmail.com. The subject is going to be something like test email, and the content is going to be this is a test email. It could be anything you want. That's it. You can now send emails. What's this saying? Of course, I've put the list in there. We don't want to put the list there. This is the emails that this email is going to. In this case, it's just a single guy or woman. This is the title or the subject, and this is the content. If you want to call this a bit nicer, you can say to emails is that. You can then say subject is that. And you can then say content is that. So that's just calling it a bit nicer. It's up to you what you do, of course. Normally, I think I would do it this way, just because it's pretty clear that the email is going to go to this email. And then you may want to put subject and content here, just to make sure that nobody gets confused. Maybe they think this is the content, this is the subject. If you call them with named arguments, that's just a little bit clearer, maybe a bit nicer way of doing that. Whenever you want to send an email from your application, all you have to do is call your Mailgun library send email function, or method, sorry, and that'll send an email. So this is a bit of a nicer way of structuring your email sending, and this is actually what I use very often, a library just like this one, in many other projects. There is an issue with security if you put your API key inside your code. You don't want to put your API key inside your code if you're going to share that code with other people, but that is a bit more of an advanced concept, how you're going to secure your code if you're going to share with people and so forth. Not something we're going to cover in this course. But there are ways of doing that. It's just a little bit more advanced, and you have to worry about sharing your code with other people first before you start worrying about security. That's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed structuring this application in a bit of a nicer way, and I'll see you on the next video.